Discover the amazing transformation, how one black woman's kindness inspired 50 bikers to unite. Ava stood behind the counter of her food truck, chomp on this, her hands moving skillfully as she flipped burgers and sautéed onions. The comforting scent wafted through the air, mingling with the palpable tension in the small Midwestern town. She felt it every day, the weight of financial burdens pressing down on her as she fought to keep the business afloat after losing her healthcare job. Each meal she served was a testament to her grandmother's teachings, a reminder of kindness and family values, but lately it felt as though the universe had conspired against her. The reality was harsh. The blue-collar town was struggling, and so was she. "Maybe I just shouldn't have made all that chicken gumbo," she muttered to herself, a frown etched across her brow. Internal doubts nagged at her. Was it worth it? There were moments when she questioned whether her dream of bringing comfort food to the community only compounded their struggles. She could remove her apron and join the cycle of grief she saw in the streets, an easier path to escape. But Ava shook her head at the thought. Her heart raced, entwined with thoughts of leaving the truck behind, yet it always felt so wrong to abandon her mission. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as she lost herself in thought, the news hit her hard. Riley, the leader of the Blue Eagles biking group, had been in a terrible accident. The rugged individuals who roamed the streets like marauders had always seemed invulnerable. A ripple of fear gripped Ava as she thought about the crew's notorious reputation and their often dismissive attitude towards people like her. Her cooking was a small convenience, nothing more. Suddenly, their sorrow cut through their hard shells like a knife. She had seen the flyers for charity rides that Riley organized, but had never imagined their weight in the community would become a burden of grief. Ava glanced at the enormous pot of gumbo bubbling on her stove. Was it her place to connect with a group like the Blue Eagles? A whisper of fear slid through her, twining with her sense of duty and compassion. Torn, she stood in her makeshift kitchen, battling the nagging thought that no one would want something from her when they had so much to process. But then she thought of Riley's warmth, how he radiated a kind of openness that made even the grumpiest passerby smile. Uncertain of her gamble, she loaded her food truck with warm, steaming bowls of gumbo, unsure how they would initially receive it. Her pulse quickened as she drove to their gathering spot. Would they scoff at her efforts? Or would her act of kindness become a bridge, however fragile, to heal the rift between her and the rough-and-tumble crew? The anxiety swirled within her, threatening to drown her in doubt. She watched the Blue Eagles gather as she parked, their somber faces a stark contrast to the joy she wanted to bring. Would they see her heart in her offerings, or would they continue to overlook the humanity she poured into every dish? Ava hesitated, her heart echoing Riley's laughter as she stepped closer to confront this transformative moment. The moment Ava stepped out of her food truck, an inexplicable heaviness settled on her shoulders. She swallowed hard, her heart racing as she carried the first steaming bowl of gumbo towards the gathering of bikers. The air felt electric, charged with uncertainty. Every step seemed to echo her internal struggle. As she approached, the group's silence enveloped her. Their faces, etched with remembrance and sorrow, were a stark contrast to the lively atmosphere she had always envisioned among bikers. The sight of them cradling their memories, their camaraderie shared through unspoken bonds, made her heart ache. She was acutely aware of how foreign she felt among them, as if intruding on a private space of grief. But her determination propelled her forward. "Hey, I brought some gumbo," she stammered, her voice trembling slightly as she held out a bowl. A few heads turned, eyes meeting hers with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Riley had always been the bridge between their worlds, His absence loomed heavily over the gathering. Ava's stomach tightened with apprehension. Would they reject her offering, viewing it merely as another gesture from someone outside their circle? Gumbo, one of the bikers, a tall man with a scruffy beard and a leather jacket adorned with patches, stepped closer. His gaze was piercing, and Ava felt the weight of his scrutiny. "Why'd you bring this?" A wave of vulnerability washed over her. I thought it might help," she managed to say, suddenly aware of how her words sounded. A simple act of kindness seemed inadequate to assuage their grief. "Help?" he repeated, a hint of skepticism lingering in his tone. "You think a bowl of soup will fix what we lost?" The question struck deep. It made her question her own intentions. In that moment, she had to confront more than just the biker's grief. She needed to face her own fears about the impact she could make. "Maybe it won't fix anything," Ava began, her voice steadying as she found her resolve. "But it's a piece of my heart, something I've made with care." She gestured to the steaming food, hoping they could see beyond the surface. Riley understood kindness. "I just thought maybe sharing a meal could remind us of him, and maybe remind us all that we're still here, together." As the words slipped from her lips, the atmosphere shifted. The air charged with emotion, and slowly the initial skepticism thawed. The man who questioned her reached out, taking a bowl and nodding in silent acknowledgement. One by one, others followed, accepting her offering. Everything seemed incomprehensible as a few bikers began to share stories of Riley, laughter punctuating their voices alongside bittersweet tears. Ava started to feel the warmth of connection as she moved among them, serving each bowl. Conversation sparked, and each exchange felt like a thread weaving her closer to this rugged family. Through shared laughter and stories, Ava realized she was no longer just an outsider standing at the periphery. She was finding her place. Her efforts opened a door for her to become an integral part of something beyond her wildest dreams. A bridge, just like Riley had been. But as she soaked in the moment of unexpected camaraderie, a new thought emerged. How could she build on this connection? The seed of determination flickered in her heart. The challenge of uniting communities loomed in her mind, and as she stood there, surrounded by the bikers who had unexpectedly embraced her, she felt a stirring ambition take root. Ava's gaze met the tall biker from earlier, and a grin spread across her face, equal parts hope and uncertainty. "What if we could keep this going?" she asked. "What if we could organize rides to support local families in need?" The silence that followed held a mix of intrigue and hesitation, leaving her at the precipice of a brand new adventure. Would they see her vision as a way to honor Riley's legacy? Or would this idea be met with resistance? The moment hung in the air, and the answer lay just before her, waiting to be discovered. Ava held her breath, feeling the tension stretch like a taut wire. The urge to fill the silence with anything, laughter, reassurance, was overwhelming. Yet she stood still, waiting. The weight of the moment pressed down as curiosity glimmered in the eyes of the bikers, mingled with a hint of skepticism. She had put forth her vision, but would they affirm it, or would it dissolve into uncertainty? The tall biker, arms crossed, seemed to be weighing her words against the backdrop of their shared grief. She could see the gears turning behind his weathered face before he nodded slowly. Words, however, meant nothing without action. Did she have the stamina to follow through, or was she stepping too far outside her safety net? "I mean, it's just an idea," she rushed to clarify, glancing around at the group. "I thought we could ride together, raise some money, help families struggling in Riley's name, you know? He loved this community." The boldness of her proposition made her heart pound. She had wandered out on a limb, one she nervously balanced on as she caught snippets of murmured conversations among the bikers. Was she an interloper here, or was she meant to weave herself into their lives? The connection felt fragile, already tested by her tentative words. A younger biker, his face a patchwork of youthful optimism and street wisdom, stepped forward. "What you're saying isn't dumb. It's actually kind of inspiring. I think we all want to do something that keeps Riley alive in our hearts, you know? His voice brimmed with genuine emotion, and for a heartbeat, it felt like the embers of possibility ignited within the crowd. How would we even organize something like that? Asked another, this one older, voice rough like gravel. Ava felt a surge of determination. I have some ideas on how we can start. We could set up a website, use social media to gather interest, maybe even partner with local businesses for sponsorship. We could plan a ride, money for miles or something like that. Her mind raced with possibilities, but she quickly caught herself. Was her enthusiasm giving her an unrealistic confidence? Doubt flickered in as she observed their responses. Would they truly buy in, or were they just being polite to the newcomer who strayed into their world? That internal struggle almost consumed her, until she realized these men and women stood there, contemplating her proposal. Maybe her vision could resonate with them. In that moment, Ava understood. Even being afraid and uncertain was a step towards forging deeper bonds. What kind of ride are you picturing? The scruffy biker finally asked, his skepticism giving way to curiosity. A scenic route through the countryside. Riley loved those rides. Then we could end somewhere meaningful, maybe at a local diner, a barbecue, just like he would have loved. It could be an event that draws in families, food, music, stories. It's more than just a ride. It's a gathering of hearts, honoring him the way he lived. Hope and desperation bubbled within her as she spoke. She caught the exchange of glances between the bikers. She felt like a conductor presenting a symphony to an audience that was unsure whether to applaud or not. "Count me in," the younger biker said, enthusiasm breaking through. Others followed, murmurs of agreement swelling in volume. But then a hard voice broke through the support. "And what happens when it's time to face tough stuff, like money issues or planning mishaps? Are you sure you can handle that?" The challenge cut through her burgeoning optimism, forcing her to confront the truth. This could spiral out of control, and failure might loom right around the corner. She felt the bile of uncertainty rise in her throat. "I won't know unless we try," she replied, voice steady but heart racing. Each word was a commitment to herself. If she was going to forge this new path, she needed to prepare for the obstacles ahead. Ava's resolve solidified as she faced the skeptics, eyes gleaming with determination tinged with vulnerability. Was not just a chance to honor Riley anymore. It was a chance to discover her strength and grow among a community that, perhaps, was beginning to accept her. The atmosphere shifted again, thick with potential and anxiety. "I'll bring my bike," the tall biker finally declared, a smile breaking the sternness of his features. As a chorus of eager affirmations buzzed in the air, the reality of what she was embarking upon finally sank in. She wasn't merely navigating through grief. She was planting seeds of change, shaping her own destiny. And despite her fear, an exhilarating rush coursed through her. With every unfurling possibility, the weight shifted, and before her lay the exhilarating thrill of the unknown. But what would the next challenge be? Ava felt the weight of a new responsibility, one that would test her abilities and beliefs. Would the community remain steadfast through the hurdles they were yet to face? With every decision made, she knew that a wild ride was waiting. Just how wild, she still needed to discover. Ava left that initial meeting buoyed by a mix of adrenaline and trepidation. She felt like a flame igniting in a darkened room, yet the shadows of uncertainty still loomed around her. The motley crew of bikers had marked the beginning of something both exhilarating and terrifying. And as she stepped back into her world, she realized how crucial the next steps would be. Seated at her cluttered dining room table, Ava took a deep breath, allowing her thoughts to coalesce around a clearer vision. Spreading out notes and papers, she began sketching out a plan. The butterflies in her stomach reminded her to take this seriously. No longer was this merely an aspiration. It had evolved into a mission that required structure and fortitude. Each bullet point on her page represented steps toward an uncharted territory, ideas simmering with potential, yet laced with the real fear of failure. Would anyone actually help? Could she juggle work, this new responsibility, and her own emotional turmoil? The stakes felt insurmountable.
Every concern fluttered against her consciousness like erratic wings. Her hand moved instinctively. Contacts would be crucial, she noted. She drafted an email to a local business owner she had met once, had brainstormed ways to engage community members through social media, and sketched out deadlines, all while keeping an eye on the rising clock. Time, ever the relentless taskmaster, played a role in her growing anxiety. As the evening progressed, Ava fell into an external rhythm, edging away from the internal turbulence. Task after task was crossed off, and with each check, a surge of empowerment coursed through her. But with every triumph, a creeping voice reminded her of the threats looming in the background. Financial hurdles, poor attendance, or worse, lack of interest altogether. She had yet to face the reality of what her plan would truly entail. A sudden burst of optimism jolted her as she remembered the conversations that had unfolded during the meeting.
The camaraderie, the short-lived laughter, it ignited something deep within. I can't let my fear dictate this, she reminded herself, letting the words echo in the quiet around her. That resolve catalyzed an idea. If she could transform her fear into a series of calls to action, perhaps her bold initiative could be contagious. As dawn broke, she made her first call, a local bike repair shop that had seen better days. "This might sound unconventional," she began, trembling slightly, "but I'm organizing a ride, a memorial ride, and I'd love your support." The more she spoke, the more she leaned into clarity, her voice solidifying with conviction. The other end of the line paused, and Ava's heart raced, fearful of rejection. But the shop owner engaged her, intrigued by the idea. Weeks turned to days, and as her plan unfolded, she felt momentum strengthening. Each manager she contacted turned from a stranger into an ally. Each confirming their participation felt like a win won against her self-doubt. But lurking beneath that success was the simmering conflict of credibility. What if it falls apart? The question haunted her every step. Self-judgment clawed at her resolve, echoing the earlier skepticism she'd felt from the older biker. Each passing day saw her sink deeper into the reality that she was not merely representing herself, she was carrying the weight of the biker's hopes and expectations. That evening, she sat in silence after sending out the latest round of outreach emails. Deliberation filled her thoughts. If she truly committed to the upcoming ride, if she poured her heart into it, would her capability emerge in equal measure? Or would the cracks in her facade become apparent, revealing a lack of experience? The clock ticked monotonously in the background, reflecting her mounting anxiety. Then the thought crossed her mind. Wasn't this journey as much about finding herself within the chaos as it was about honoring Riley? Just then, her phone buzzed with a notification, interrupting her thoughts. One of the bikers had sent a message. "Let's meet again soon. Plan more on the ride. We're all in this together." Ava's heart raced, a revelation dawning that perhaps she was not alone in this after all. But was it going to be enough to bolster her fragmented confidence? How did she transform this collaboration into something more substantial amid her fears? Ava understood that each decision from that moment on would shape not just the ride, but also her evolution. Would she rise to the occasion, or would she hesitate? The haunting echoes of doubt lay on the cusp of discovery, forcing her to confront what lay deep within. As the days slipped by, Ava felt the pressure metamorphose into a strange cocktail of excitement and fear. Each interaction with the bikers enriched her vision, slowly transforming uncertainty into determination. Yet, nestled within that burgeoning resolve lay a kernel of doubt that never seemed to completely dissipate. The meeting she had arranged loomed ahead, and its weight pressed heavily upon Ava. Her shoulders. Every waking thought circled back to what she had planned to say. How did someone with no prior experience in organizing anything of this scale lead a group known for their rugged independence? The stage was set. She was to lead. But doubt gnawed at the edges of her courage. Was she truly equipped for this? Ava spent the night before the meeting in a state of flux, rehearsing her words and trying to anticipate the reactions of the bikers. In the midst of doubt, something jolted her awake. A realization struck. She wasn't just selling a ride, she was offering a chance for collective remembrance, for belonging. Suddenly, the idea of honoring Riley transformed from a burden to a profound responsibility that kindled her spirit. On the morning of the meeting, she donned a jacket that held sentimental value, a gift from Riley. Today, it would serve not just as attire, but as an emotional anchor, a reminder of why the ride mattered. She took a moment before leaving home, gazing into the mirror as if to root herself into the moment. "You've got this," she whispered, her voice a fragile thread holding her resolve together. Entering the cafe where they would gather, the bustling noise enveloped her but felt strangely comforting. She approached the back where the bikers were already seated, sharing banter and laughter that momentarily eased her anxious heart. As she joined them, familiar faces greeted her, and for the first time, she felt a spark of acceptance. They weren't just bikers, they were people, friends who shared a connection to her lost one. When the time came to speak, Ava felt all eyes on her. The memories of doubt flooded back. Taking a deep breath, she reminded herself of Riley's unwavering belief in empowerment through action. "This ride," she started, her voice quaking slightly, "is not just about honoring a memory. It's about creating something beautiful together." As she spoke, the words began to flow with unexpected clarity. She shared her vision, detailing not just the ride, but the potential it held for community connection. Her fear of judgment was met with engagement. Nods of understanding punctuated her speech, and she saw their imaginations ignite in the possibilities. Each laugh and thoughtful gaze bolstered her confidence, illuminating the path ahead. Yet, as the meeting progressed, trepidation resurfaced with new intensity. What if they ask the tough questions? What if I falter? Her mind spiraled into a frantic quest for control. Then, a question pierced through her racing thoughts. One of the bikers asked about the route. Would it be challenging enough to honor the sense of adventure they embodied? Sweat trickled down her back, but instead of retreating, she stood taller. If it's pushing the limits, then it will honor Riley. Ava's response stemmed from a place she had only begun to recognize, the inner strength she didn't know she possessed. Their enthusiasm ignited a rallying spirit in the room, turning the focus toward logistics, excitement, and... By the end of the meeting, Ava had not only secured their interest, but had also woven a fragile bond among the group. They were not merely a collective, they were a burgeoning family gathered to cherish a shared legacy. Driving home, Ava sensed a shift within herself. The sense of urgency continued to bubble beneath the surface, but now it was accompanied by newfound determination. Each decision felt consequential, not just to her initiative, but to her very identity. As she pulled into her driveway, her phone buzzed again. It was another message from the group, a photo of the meeting with an overwhelming number of "can't wait" replies. Ava smiled, but that smile held a tremor as the underlying reality set in. She had ignited something powerful, yet could she keep it fueled amidst the pressures and expectations mounting around her? Arriving at home, she reflected on the questions that still loomed ahead. The ground beneath her felt both stable and volatile. The journey was evolving, but would she be able to guide it through turbulence when the initial excitement waned? Then, with her heart thudding in her chest, another realization struck. This moment was just one in many constructions of her character. The real challenge awaited as the ride drew closer. The time would come when she would have to confront her persevering fears face to face. What was the line between courage and recklessness, and would she be able to navigate it when her convictions would be tested most? On the following day, Ava awoke to an unexpected blend of exhilaration and apprehension. The ripple effect of the meeting still vibrated in her core. The biker's enthusiasm felt like a surge of electricity coursing through her veins, demanding action. Yet with it came a weighty realization. This journey was not merely about the ride. It was a crucible for her own growth. The sun, a bold blaze against the morning clouds, spilled through her window, illuminating her cluttered desk where scattered notes chronicled her vision.
Each paper bore reminders of her initial hesitance, but now they felt like stepping stones towards something greater. With newfound resolve, she set out to refine her plans, eager to transform vague ideas into concrete logistics. While sipping coffee, a text pinged on her phone. Eric, one of the bikers, wanted to discuss the route in detail. His enthusiasm both thrilled and unnerved her. He was seasoned, a veteran of many rides, and she questioned with silent urgency whether her ideas would withstand scrutiny. Still, she pushed the doubt aside. It was essential to embrace the challenge, and perhaps even more vital to remember that this ride was about Riley's legacy. The conversation quickly unfolded, turning from logistics to a deeper exploration of Riley himself. Every memory shared became a thread, binding her vision to the biker's collective history. As Eric recounted a ride Riley had led through the mountains, wild and unpredictable, Ava's head swirled, her burgeoning confidence merging with lingering fear. Riley always found beauty in
"The chaos," he said. "That's what made him extraordinary. Are you ready to channel that?" His gaze met hers, making her pulse race. Was she ready? The truth remained tangled within her, and yet his question ignited something resolute. "Yes," she replied, surprising herself with the steady assurance in her voice. Riley thrived in challenge, and so will we. As their discussion deepened, she began sketching out not only the physical route, but also the emotional landscape she sought to create. Each fork in the road became a metaphor, an exploration of resilience and memory. With every detail she fleshed out, she bridged her doubts with her determination, consciously reconfiguring her internal narrative from insecurity to empowerment. But when the call ended, she was left alone with her thoughts. Whispers of self-doubt once more seeped into her mind, advancing relentless scenarios of potential disaster. What if she miscalculated the distance? What if her vision didn't resonate? Those thoughts were swiftly interrupted by a sense of urgency rising within her. She recognized that embracing vulnerability was critical, not just to the ride, but to her personal evolution. These feelings of intimidation were not weaknesses. They were powerful companions guiding her growth. They signified that she cared. With a fresh perspective, she crafted an email to the bikers, outlining the route interspersed with anecdotes of Riley. The response was swift and fervent. Positivity flooded her inbox, enthusiastic suggestions, personal stories, all interwoven with their eagerness to contribute. The collaboration was no longer a mere task. It was a testament to their shared connection and respect for Riley's spirit. The days progressed, each one laced with tension that spurred Ava's development. She found herself standing at the intersection of leadership and self-discovery. Determining both the route and the emotional tenor of the ride demanded more than logistical skills. It required her to assert her voice, delve deeply into her motives, and remain authentically engaged with every biker involved. The clock ticked down as the ride's date loomed closer. Each moment called for a decision, a commitment to push past her comfort zone. Ava found herself in a constant balancing act as she navigated between strength and vulnerability, reflecting on what it meant to lead. A nagging thought scratched at her consciousness, a looming realization that the ride's potential to transform not only the bikers but also herself was infinitesimal. When would the barriers of doubt give way to certainty? As she stepped outside to greet the fading light of the day, her heart once again raced. The time was approaching when she would have to confront the reality of her role. Could she harness the very chaos Riley thrived in, and would that lead her to discovery? With that question ringing in her mind, Ava knew she was on the brink of something defining. The overture of the ride awaited, yet beneath the thrill lay the shadow of the journey, a collision of her past fears with the courageous mentor she yearned to become. What would emerge? From this clash of will and responsibility, only the ride could guide her now. The days bled into each other, each moment teetering on the precipice of clarity and chaos. With the ride's date looming, Ava clung to her meticulously crafted plans, replaying conversations and snippets of wisdom shared by the bikers. In those frantic moments before sleep, she often found herself reimagining the dialogue, adjusting her tone, searching for phrases that would resonate more profoundly, both with her peers and within herself. This exercise in mental rehearsal became her lifeline. Her mornings now commenced with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. She skipped the coffee and went straight for the sunrise, finding comfort in the ritualistic nature of the early hours. In the quiet stillness, she would open her laptop and review her emails, nodding at the enthusiasm packed within the responses. Each message fueled her resolve. However, uncertainty lingered, a gnawing doubt about whether she was worthy of such trust. Then, one evening, as she sought solace by her window, a thought pierced through the fog surrounding her mind. Was it possible that the very vulnerability she feared could become her greatest asset? Instead of pretending to have all the answers, what if she sought genuine input from her newfound allies? The thought electrified her. She spent the next few hours drafting a bold message, a call for collaboration, inviting the bikers to share their insights not only on the route, but also on how Riley had impacted their lives. With each keystroke, she felt as if she were shedding layers of inhibition. It was a shift from leading a ride to creating a tapestry woven from the threads of shared experiences. Hours later, as she pressed send, a wave of anxiety washed over her. What if her initiative backfired? What if they expected her to be the architect rather than a facilitator? Shakeoffs of panic echoed in the back of her mind, but she stood resolute, breathing through the tension. This was part of the journey. She could be the guide and still allow room for the voices that wrapped around Riley's memory. The following days flew by. Ava began to experience a shift not only in how she perceived herself, but in how others reacted to her newfound openness. The bikers responded with passionate anecdotes, memories of roads taken, challenges faced, and lessons learned. Each tale they shared felt like an invitation into a world where she was no longer just occupying the space next to them. She was part of a larger narrative, deepening her own understanding of their collective journey. In their responses, there was a palpable shift. The hardened exterior of the bikers began to soften, revealing the humanity beneath. Bonds formed in laughter and tears began to intertwine, becoming the lifeblood for which the ride would serve as a vessel. However, just as momentum surged, a pivotal moment threatened to deflate the balloon of her aspirations. Eric, the very biker whose approval she sought, sent a text that carried with it an undercurrent of concern. "Ava, I'm not sure about the direction you've taken. What if emotional storytelling overshadows the ride itself? Some may not vibe with it." Her heart sank. It felt like a wave crashing against a meticulously built sandcastle, scattering her confidence in its wake. Perhaps she had overreached. Yet deep within her, a voice ricocheted back, a query of resilience nudging her forward. Despite the feeling of impending collapse, was this her moment to reassert her belief in the power of vulnerability? What would happen if he could transform this moment of doubt into strength, facing Eric's concern head-on? With renewed determination, she began assembling a presentation that would lay out not just her vision, but a clarion call for inclusivity and unity in honoring Riley. She would invite the bikers to not only critique, but to actively participate in shaping the emotional journey ahead. That evening, with her heart racing, she stepped outside into the open air, inhaling deeply. The wind brushed against her skin like the gentle reminders of her own narrative, fragile yet unyielding. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ava resolved to confront her fears. The time had come to share her vision and face not only the bikers, but the specter of self-doubt that shadowed her steps. How would they respond? Would she embody the chaos Riley thrived in, or would this venture become her undoing? With the echoes of uncertainty still ringing in her ear, she prepared herself for the next conversation, recognizing the intricate dance between fear and courage as part of her own evolution. And standing on the precipice of this confrontation, she feared this may be the defining moment, regardless of the outcome.
As adrenaline coursed through her, she realized that the real journey wasn't merely about the ride. It was beginning to feel more like an exploration of who she would become. Would her vision resonate, or would she have to surrender to the path less traveled? In the days that followed, Ava immersed herself in preparation. The intersection of optimism and trepidation carved deep creases around her mind as she meticulously organized her presentation. Each bullet point represented not just her ideas, but a part of herself that she was learning to embrace. She practiced in front of the mirror, her reflection becoming a canvas for both her fears and hopes. Could she project the authority of a leader while maintaining the humility of a learner? The day of the meeting dawned, casting a haze of expectation over her. She pulled on her riding jacket, a tangible reminder of the journey ahead, its worn fabric whispering tales of courage she hoped to channel. As she made her way to the gathering point, the ground felt unsteady under her feet, each step a challenge against the relentless tide of doubt. Arriving early, she found herself alone, the empty space sprawling before her like an untouched road. It felt daunting, a stark reminder that this venture was entirely hers to navigate. What if her presentation fell flat? What if they dismissed her vision outright? Yet, in that solitude, she also recognized an emerging sense of power, a quiet resolve swelling within her. When the bikers began to trickle in, she was surprised by the warm connections that tinged the air. Each face she recognized had shifted in her perception. They were no longer just bikers, but fellow travelers on a shared journey. Their laughter, combined with the rumble of engines, created a symphony that seemed to urge her forward. Still, as Eric took his place among them, her confidence wavered. She could feel the weight of his skepticism pressing down, but the anticipation in the room ignited her spirit. Taking a deep breath, Ava stepped to the forefront, grounding herself in the moment, reminding herself that her vulnerability was not a weakness, but a bridge between her and them. As she launched into her presentation, a tapestry of her aspirations interwoven with their stories, something shifted. It began as a soft murmur, a ripple of engagement, but soon exploded into a frenetic exchange of thoughts. She uniquely encouraged participation, inviting them to share their reflections in real time. The bikers leaned in, their initially guarded expressions melting into interest. Each story they shared momentarily became a thread in her elaborately stitched quilt of remembrance for Riley, celebrating not just their collective loss, but a way forward through shared experiences. She witnessed Eric, who had moments prior harbored doubt, smile almost imperceptibly, the barrier cracking as he nodded along. But just as she felt the tide of momentum surge, doubts threatened to creep back. Would the depth of their memories align with her vision or crash against her more structured approach? It was then she understood. She couldn't control the outcome. She could only share her truth and hope they would resonate with it. As the meeting drew to a close, the atmosphere thickened with possibility. Ideas bounced off the walls, solutions emerged from shared minds, and a thread of connection spun through the group. Ava felt a shift within her, a sense of belonging that transcended any designation of leader or follower. She was part of something beyond herself. As the crowd began to disperse, Eric approached with a hesitant smile, extending his hand, a signal of newfound respect. His words wrapped around her like a warm embrace. "You didn't just talk, Ava, you connected." The realization settled in. She had crossed a threshold. The transformation wasn't just in her relationships with others, it was in how she viewed herself. No longer merely aspiring to be a leader, she was stepping into her role as a catalyst for connection. Yet, as night approached, Ava's contemplation tangled poignantly with unresolved questions. Would they carry this collective energy into the ride? How much of her own fears would they really leave behind? Standing at that crossroad, she sensed the next defining step ahead. The ride loomed closer, and with it, an unknown challenge awaited. How would they navigate both the physical journey and the emotional landscapes she had opened? Her heart raced once again.
This was only the beginning of the path that had begun to unravel before her. Into the depths of uncertainty, Ava readied herself to delve deeper. The crossroads beckoned. Would she emerge stronger, or could this new venture lead to fractures in the connections she had painstakingly forged? Ava's mind raced as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a gauzy veil of twilight across the landscape. Amidst the familiar sounds of revving engines and laughter, a sense of unease began to swirl within her, an unsettling anticipation of what lay ahead. The journey they were about to embark on could unravel or reinforce the fragile ties she had worked so hard to weave within that conference room. As the bikers gathered their gear, she noticed subtle shifts in their interactions. Eric seemed to command the crowd's attention, sharing anecdotes that hinted at deeper emotions, while others watched with a mix of admiration and uncertainty. Doubt's tendrils gripped Ava again, gnawing at the edges of her newfound confidence. Had she merely sparked a moment of connectivity, a fleeting flame that would extinguish once reality set back in? Driven by a need to take action, she approached Eric, his commanding presence pulsating like an engine ready to roar. "How can I support you?" she asked, her voice steady yet quavering inside. The vulnerability of that question weighed on her, for it called into question her place in this group, that of both a leader and a listener. He raised an eyebrow, perplexed by her inquiry. "Support isn't what's needed right now. We need to trust each other as we hit the road. Are you ready for it?" His challenge hung in the air like a thick fog. It was a crucial moment. Ava could sense the implications resonating far beyond the trip itself. "Ready?" she echoed, feeling the weight of uncertainty clawing upward from her gut. Despite her earlier courage, the thought of leading the group while confronting their mutual vulnerabilities simultaneously felt like a treacherous cliff to navigate. Yet this wasn't just about her being prepared. It was about standing firm alongside them, embracing the chaos. "Okay, let's do this," she replied, each word ignited by resolve. More than ever, she yearned for authenticity in this journey. She needed to ground herself in genuine experience rather than perceived authority. Taking her place at the front of the group as they revved up their engines, she felt a sense of purpose solidify within her. Ava resolved to address her roles, the leader guiding them toward shared horizons, and the listener ready to weather their stories. This duality would be the very foundation upon which she could build lasting connections. As they hit the open road, the wind whipped against her face, a cleansing sensation against the tide of self-doubt. She watched the bikers' expressions transform, their excitement melding into a collective intensity. That charged the atmosphere. It ignited in her a desire to keep the conversation flowing, to delve deeper, to explore uncharted emotional territories while racing down unfamiliar paths. Gradually, the camaraderie blooming around her revealed profound truths about their shared experiences. Within those moments, she sensed hidden talents brewing, not exclusively within herself, but among the eagerness unfolding in her comrades. There was wisdom here, layers of emotions waiting for someone to draw them out, to weave stories through the fabric of shared experience. Yet with every passing mile, she felt the weight of responsibilities growing heavier. Would her approach invite more openness, or would it risk exposing fragile emotions that could unravel the bonds they had begun to build? The ride promised revelations, but also the potential for devastating confrontation. As they stopped for a break, tensions crackled in the air like static electricity. Ava's eyes darted around. The atmosphere felt ready to shift dramatically. She could sense buried issues amongst the group, unspoken grievances, and perhaps even unresolved pain. It was time to take a stand. The commitment she felt to weave these stories together now danced alongside the fear of a potential clash. The moment of truth loomed ahead, demanding clarity and connection. Would Ava choose to confront the silence and dig beneath the surface, inviting the complexities into the open? The choice weighed heavily on her.
But the question remained, could she navigate this road while keeping everyone united, or would her efforts lead to fractures that might turn this journey into one of chaos rather than unity? The answers had yet to reveal themselves, lurking like shadows waiting for the light. Ava took a deep breath, the rumble of engines fading as the group settled around her. This moment was pivotal. She understood all too well that their vulnerability would either solidify their bond or shatter it. She felt the weight of anticipation wrapping around her like a second skin. It pressed against her chest, but within it flickered a spark of determination. "Hey everyone," she began, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. "I think we all know that today is about more than just a ride. It's about honoring Riley and creating a connection as we move forward." She glanced around, noting the eager faces of the bikers, their earlier skepticism fading away. "Let's share some stories." Her heart raced as she added, "I want us to open up not just about the fun times, but also about what Riley meant to each of us." There was a moment of silence, laden with possibilities, until Eric cleared his throat. "I'll start." His voice rumbled like the engines they had just parked, but the vulnerability in his gaze was palpable. Riley was tough, but had a heart. "He taught me how to face the worst, not by running away from it, but sitting with it. Every ride we took together, I learned to push past my limits. He made you alive." Ava felt warmth radiated through the group as they leaned in closer, listening intently. Each story shared transformed hesitation into connection, layer by layer. As the narratives unfolded, each thread reinforcing the fabric of their collective experience, Ava realized the insight was more than valuable, it was necessary. Her role transitioned from one of a hesitant leader to a unifying presence. Each voice constructed a mosaic of shared memories, and the confines of her self-doubt began to dissolve. With every anecdote, she saw her own journey reflected back at her. These bikers, hardened by life's trials, were stepping towards the openness she had yearned for, together forging a legacy Riley would be proud of. As the ride progressed, the emotional landscapes unfurled alongside the scenic views. Ava felt herself shift, absorbing the energy of each biker's story while contributing her own experiences. They bonded over their shared vulnerability, celebrating moments of laughter infused with tears. By the time they reached their destination, an unexpected place, a small diner nestled in the countryside, Ava understood the transformation was not just about honoring Riley. It was about forging a community grounded in authenticity. They weren't just riders, they had become a family, unified under the belief that they could support each other through trials. Inside the diner, the atmosphere brimmed with warmth and comfort. Her heart swelled as she caught glimpses of camaraderie. The sharing of meals turned into the breaking of bread, a symbol of unity. As they sat at a long table, the conversations flowed, filling the air with promises of future rides and commitments to each other. In that moment, Ava's chest swelled with an indescribable pride. She didn't just witness the transformation, she was part of it. Her vision had not only materialized, it evolved into something organic and powerful. She had achieved the unthinkable, igniting a spark within herself and a profound connection among the bikers. As laughter echoed around the diner, Ava realized she stood on the brink of a new chapter. The ride had introduced her to untapped strengths, illuminating a path filled with confidence. Rather than retreating into the shadows of doubt, she had conquered her fears, embracing both her uniqueness and her place within this rugged circle. As they left the diner, Ava made a bold declaration: "Let's do this again." The cyclists erupted in cheers, and within their midst, she felt not just acceptance but recognition of her role as a connector, someone who understood that vulnerability cultivated strength. With the sun setting behind them, casting long shadows that intertwined with the road ahead, Ava knew this wasn't merely the conclusion of a ride. This was the apex of her transformation, a tangible representation of growth achieved through courage. She had become a vital thread woven into the rich quilt of their journey. In that rich tapestry, she found her voice, showcasing the potency of connection. Ava had moved beyond her past limitations. She had proven her ability to cultivate not just a ride, but a foundation for community strength. Feeling empowered,
she embraced the excitement of what lay ahead, a future defined by shared experiences and supported dreams. She chuckled softly, reflecting, "I can't wait to see where we go from here." Indeed, Ava had risen beyond her doubts, and the path forward shimmered with unbounded potential. Now more than ever, she understood, it wasn't just the destination that mattered, it was the journey, and all those who rode alongside her. With renewed purpose, she could feel the wind on the horizon, signaling new adventures waiting to unfold. And this was just the beginning. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.